For my final project, I created a Padlet diagram showing how all of the student learning outcomes connect to one another. I also include the main ideas I learned about each learning outcome. First, I put Students Learning Outcome 5, which was to reflect on positive and negative teaching practices that impacted the classroom environment, at the very top of my diagram, and I put all of the other outcomes below it. I did this because all of the other learning outcomes involve learning about positive and negative teaching practices. SLO1 was to compare classroom and behavior management strategies. I learned about classroom management teaching practices and created a plan to put structures in place to run my classroom. I also learned that behavior management is all about how I can support my students' responses to stressors and traumas. I included important terms for this outcome. SLO2 investigated maladaptive behaviors and examined how these behaviors impacted learning in the classroom. As humans, we all have needs, shown in my Maslow's hierarchy. Trauma happens when our needs are not met. Trauma shows up in the classroom in the form of maladaptive behaviors. The same is true with stress. Often when students are stressed, they will display maladaptive behaviors. In order to help our students grow and be successful, we first need to identify what maladaptive behaviors we see. Then we need to determine the cause of the maladaptive behaviors. And lastly, we need to create a plan to address them. SLO3 was to articulate basic strategies for de-escalating crisis situations. Because we are seeing an increasing incidence of trauma in students, we need to know how to respond to crisis situations. I included information on how to proactively prevent crisis in the classroom and how to de-escalate a crisis situation if it arises. I also included a link to a site with several behavioral interventions. The last learning outcome, SLO4, was about investigating positive behavior management strategies and explaining why they work in a classroom/school, focused on effective behavior management strategies for the classroom. I learned about how to strengthen target behaviors and weaken maladaptive behaviors. Some of the strategies I learned about are implementing PBIS, which is Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports, school-wide, teaching social emotional skills, or SEL, and restorative practices, which involves responding to behaviors that occur in the classroom and building relationships. If you have any questions about my final project, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.